All right, you've been hearing a lot about it in the news. Recession. Will they? Won't they? Is it coming? Is it not coming? Let's break down what you need to do to prepare. Hi, I'm Caroline from Woo Mini Mastery, and this week's video is all about the big R word that you've been hearing probably everywhere for the last few years, right? Fears of a recession. It seems like the economists have been saying for quite some time they're preparing for us to go into a recession. Then few weeks ago, there started being chatter about it doesn't look like we're going to go into a recession. So, what is it and what should you do? So, first, I want to dispel some myths, right? So, a recession is a natural part of the economic cycle, and a recession does not impact all parts of the economy in the same way. Let me give you an example. So, when the COVID pandemic first started in March of 2020, seems like just yesterday, right? There were certain industries that were impacted more than others, right? So when you think about there were layoffs that happened when everyone had to shut down, right? But conversely, there were other areas that it actually benefited them a lot, right? Think about companies like Zoom, when all of a sudden everybody, all the schools, all of the companies had to start using Zoom to conduct their business, right? Also, things like grocery stores remained open, so they were still bringing in money. So I just want to go to demonstrate that, just because something is a recession doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be impacted in the same way as everyone else. Another good example of the past few years is used cars, right? When COVID first started, no one was really buying anything, so there were all these cars just sitting on the lots, especially in the United States, waiting to be bought. But then the manufacturers stopped making new cars, and that's when shipping started again. And then it seemed like you couldn't find a car anywhere, and prices skyrocketed, right? So these things are cyclical and they come in waves. But just because there's a chance you won't get impacted doesn't mean that you shouldn't prepare as if you will. So, a few tips that you should take to prepare not just for a recession, but that are good practices to do, every now and again, just to make sure that you're in a good position if something life-changing like this were to happen, right? So the first thing to do, now's a good time with all this discussion, is really just kind of sit and evaluate where you're at, right? Do you have consistent income coming in? Is your income meeting your expenses, right? Do you want to go through your expenses, make sure that you actually need to spend on all of them? It's a one-time thing, but calling certain providers, switching to a different internet company if you're able to, seeing if your auto insurance offers any good driver discounts, right? Like this stuff, it does take a little bit of time, but it can save you so much money in the long run. And if anything were to happen, your income were to be reduced or something, like you would have already been proactively taking that step, saving that money in advance. So also along the lines of saving, now's a great opportunity to reevaluate your savings, right? Do you have enough cash on hand to cover any kind of emergencies, right? Are your credit cards getting paid off every single month so that you don't have to pay interest rates? These higher interest fees that keep going higher and higher. And another thing to consider is, if you do have debt that you're paying interest on, are you able to, do a balance transfer credit card where you can take a period of time and just make sure you're not adding to it, but really pay that off, right? Nip it in the bud as fast as you can. In addition to saving, like I mentioned, if you're going through a recession or impacted, not every industry gets impacted the same, right? So if you are able to, make any investments, a recession is typically a great time to buy, right? Because the prices have gone down. So technically these stocks are on sale. So if you buy some of them, if you're able to do a long-term buy and hold, if you're not going to need that money for at least a few years, you can buy some during the recession and hold on to it for a few years, and then you should be pretty good there. In addition to this, it's a good opportunity just to kind of like reevaluate some of your financial goals, right? Make sure that you're really working towards the things that matter most to you and your family, right? So, for example, in our family, me and my kids, travel is very, very important to us, right? I think there's so much that can be learned from travel, and I will often prioritize travel and new experiences as opposed to other things that don't necessarily matter to us and line up with our values as much. But reevaluating things from this kind of preparation standpoint, perhaps rather than traveling halfway across the world, we might take a trip to someplace a little bit closer, or I will reevaluate what hotels we'll stay at. A lot of airlines now, if travel is important to you as well, they'll just keep checking the prices, because if the price goes down, they'll be willing to give you the difference in cost, right? So it's just really a good opportunity, if you hear the R word, the recession word coming, just to take a few moments and just reassess, reevaluate where you are. Make sure that if the worst were to happen, you have some measure of safety and stability, and where you would be able to go for help. And then also, setting yourself up so that if a recession did happen and you were in a position where you weren't impacted as much, or you were actually benefiting, that you already know kind of what plan you have in place so that you can go ahead and capitalize it, take advantage of it, and make sure that your family comes out better than it has before. So let me know if this has been helpful for you. You leave a comment for me down below. Make sure you sign up for my email list so that you don't miss any of these videos. I post one every single week. I'd love to hear what topic ideas you have, just so we can keep this conversation going, and I will see you for next week's video.